Meet Lonnie Phipps, the owner and CEO of Bookworm Bookkeeping. What started as a side hustle quickly became her true calling, and now she helps businesses take control of their finances with expert bookkeeping and accounting services. But she doesn't do it alone. No, Lonnie leads a powerful bookkeeping guild, a network of financial experts ready to support business owners on their journey. For those who need more flexibility or can't afford a full-time bookkeeper, Lonnie offers a subscription service as a cost-effective option. Clients can choose from different tiers to get answers to their toughest financial questions and connect with trusted advisors in tax, payroll, and more, all while benefiting from expert bookkeeping and accounting. Whether you're a startup hero or a seasoned merchant, Lonnie and her guild are here to help you master your finances and level up your business.
All right. Well, hello, Justin. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So,
Good.
how's life been since high school?
Busy,
Busy?
crazy,
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
All of the things, right?
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been. I don't know. Did you ever come to any of the reunions at all that we've had? I think I've
No,
only been
I
to
I
like
had
three or four.
intentions to, but never was able
Okay.
to.
I don't always remember who comes to those, but
Yeah.
so well, cool. Well, yeah, so just to get started a little bit, and for anybody that might be watching this a little bit later, I'm going to give myself a little bit of an introduction,
Okay.
and a reason as to why I'm doing these interviews. And I've reached out to Justin, and then I'll have him introduce himself, give his little commercial or pitch or whatever. So I'm Trenton Wilson, and I am the owner and founder of Nobility IQ. I'm working on getting that started and going, and one of the big things that I'm doing with that is these interviews with job seekers. I've found that I love doing these meetings with people, so that's like one of the big things that I'm working on doing, is getting these interviews going and putting it on a YouTube channel. Um, the concept of Nobility IQ is that I believe that everybody has a genius inside of them, and we just have to figure out what that genius is, and and hopefully we can use that to find our best careers. So that's a little bit about me. I've been a career coach for a little over 15 years, and so I've been helping people with their careers and different things. And so that's what I get excited about, is helping people figure stuff out about their life and their next move and different things like that. So yeah. So Justin, tell me, give me your 30-second pitch or your minute pitch.
Pitch. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I've been working for about 15 years with SQL Server, so I'm really in depth with T-SQL development. I enjoy data. I love to deep dive. One of the things that I feel like most people compliment me is how well I deep dive. If I see an issue, I want to find out that key of what's causing that issue and fix it, hopefully improve it, and so that it doesn't come back. I've worked with many different types of data. I feel like source data is really interesting to work with. You have all sorts of different ways of ingesting data, and I've found that it's really interesting and eye-opening how, people either give you data or how it's received or anything like that. I love to help others and in return receive help when I need it to better understand an approach that I'm having or difficulty. It's fun just bouncing ideas off of others. I feel like in the long run that helps with the overall picture of, making a company successful.
Awesome. Awesome. I used to be a accountant, and so data to me was kind of cool back then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now my ADHD doesn't let me even think about a lot of data. So I always appreciate the data folks, because they keep track of a lot of information that needs to happen. So
It's
um,
interesting with all the data that I've done, I've wondered about pivoting to an accounting type
mhm,
position. I really like the math, the just moving, manipulating things and figuring out, why things are the way they are and stuff. It's
mhm.
just really fascinating to me.
Yeah, the financial analysis, data analysis. It was fun to me.
Yeah,
At some point I learned that I liked a little more social interaction than I got as an accountant, but
yeah, that makes
because
sense.
I'm somewhat of a social person, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, cool. So what kind of work are you looking for specifically? If I guess first question, what is like the job that you're most qualified for that you could just start tomorrow and be perfectly just take off running? And then the second question would be, what would be your ideal job that you may have to work for or train into or something like that? You could probably do, but you just need to. What's your step up goal?
So right now, data engineering is like the biggest experience that I have,
Hmm.
but I'm realizing that there are certain aspects of it that I haven't kept up on, just
Hmm.
because the places I've worked has been, mostly a T-SQL shop, and I've been happy with that. And so a lot of the cloud stuff is kind of new to me, and
Okay.
so that's kind of, I guess it's kind of the role that I'd be good at, and I could pick up all of this stuff, but I kind of want to have that edge of, I do know these tech, this tech,
Hmm.
and I can step into the role.
Okay.
So I'm kind of lacking it, but at the same time, I've got enough background experience that I feel like, throw me into something, I'll pick it up, and it's
Hmm.
really not a big deal, right? So
Okay.
I think it's mostly just trying to convince someone that I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess some of this is probably going to go over my head, but I'm asking this question for those that might be watching this later, or recruiters, or anybody that might have an opportunity for you, or knows that arena. But what are some of the programs that what have you worked with in the past that is common in your field? Okay.
I've noticed a lot of people are wanting Python. Um, I'm sure you've heard of Python. It's very, very high
Yeah.
demand right now.
Yeah.
There are a few modules that you can add to Python, NumPy, Pandas, um, Spark, stuff like that. Um,
Okay.
well, I guess it's not Spark. It's the add-on that mimics what Apache Spark does.
Okay.
Um, so being more in depth of Python, I have some knowledge of it, and I've used it in the
Hmm.
past, but
Okay.
but I need to kind of dig in more and
Okay.
get a little bit
Yeah,
more
I think
advanced. So
so for my full-time job, I think our data scientist uses Python quite a bit. So
yeah.
yeah, so I'm familiar that it's a good database tool,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
haven't, I haven't dug in databases since Access was a thing.
right.
So
And funny enough, it's still a thing.
yeah,
I've seen a few job postings with
yeah,
required access
yeah.
knowledge. So
So that's fun.
yeah,
Um, so so I recently, so you mentioned the other day on our chat text that you were doing some upskilling,
yeah.
some learning and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about that. What are you learning, and what are you doing and how will that help you in your job search?
So there is a connection I have on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
He works at WGU. I think his name was Leonard. I don't know him really well. I've talked to him a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but he has a huge background with data analysis and stuff. And
Okay.
he started posting these things about data camp. And I was like, what's this data camp thing?
Mhm.
So I went online and looked at it, and it's these courses where you have about a 5-minute snippet. They kind of teach you a certain portion of the tech that they're covering, and then they give you 1 to 4 hands-on things that kind of
Mhm.
cement that stuff with you. And so
Okay.
you work through the chapter, and then once you're done, you have that module done, and they have like a little kind of certificate thing that you can post on LinkedIn and
Mhm.
stuff. And right now, I am working through a lot of the Python stuff. I worked through a little bit of the SQL stuff. Some of it was really easy, so I tested out of the easy modules, right? And
Mhm.
and so I'm trying to work through all of that and be able to post it up on LinkedIn so that people understand that, I'm not a stagnant person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Right.
I like learning new things and stuff like that. And so data camp, I feel like, is a good way for me to kind of get that core base, and then I'm gonna look for some projects or come up with some that I can just like do on my own, and
Mm-hmm.
then just kind of further solidify what I've learned and stuff. And
Yeah.
hopefully
Okay.
that will be the impact I need, right?
Yeah. Okay. Have you heard of Skillsoft before?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
So I think I'm not 100% certain, but I think they have learning modules. So
Uh-huh.
they're kind of a learning platform, and one of the things that I think you can get a free trial for
Uh-huh.
Skillsoft, and then you can test it out and see if they have stuff. There was another platform, and I can't think of it right now. If I think of it, I'll mention it, or I'll put it in the chat or something like that. But
I
um,
I actually purchased a few courses from Udemy,
oh yeah,
specifically
Udemy.
Snowflake and DBT, just so I could, get those as well.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Oh, Pluralsight's the other one, and I
oh,
think
Pluralsight's a good one.
Pluralsight's, yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
a little more tech based than Skillsoft would be.
Uh-huh.
But those are two places that you might be able to get a free trial, and then if it's worth it, you figure out how to take a few more courses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's Khan Academy. I don't know if you've heard
Oh
of
yeah.
that one.
Hmm.
So that's another good one that's got some good training. So those are just good ways to upskill a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Harvard has a few free classes,
okay,
edX.
yeah,
Yeah, I've seen a few, but yeah, I appreciate it.
yeah. Um, so tell me, so maybe let's focus on maybe some soft skills and stuff like that. And I might be confusing you with somebody else, but did you serve time as a mayor at some point?
No, I did not.
No, no.
No.
Okay, I'm thinking of probably somebody else that was in our
Yeah.
class or school or something like that. But what are some of the soft skills and what are some accomplishments maybe outside of work that would translate into somebody saying, "Hey, this guy's pretty awesome. We should hire him."
Let's see, soft skills. I have a very analytical mind. I like to work through things. It's
Mhm,
growing up, my dad gave me an old an SLR, just an old, camera that wasn't working for him. And he's like, do with it what you will. And so I ended
mhm,
up tearing it apart and looking at it and stuff. And so later when I was in high school and I had a photography class,
mhm,
I could see how all the inner workings would work because I had torn this camera apart, and
mhm.
it was just really interesting. And so
Yeah.
for work, I like doing stuff like that. If someone gives me a task, I like to figure out, what what it what it's doing and stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
if I have the time to
Okay.
deep dive, then I will.
Okay. Well,
Um,
that's
but time
that's
management is another thing, right?
okay. Yeah.
If something is urgent and I don't have time to deep dive, then, it's how fast can I get this particular task done,
Hmm.
and do it effectively, and then, revisit it if I need to or whatever. Um,
Okay.
I'm a very introverted person, but over time I found that the more I collaborate with people, the more success not only do I have, but the more success the company has, the group has.
Hmm.
It's just it's amazing that team effort that you can put in and just leverage and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I've always known you. Just I'll put my own pitch in there as a kind and a smart kid. You always seemed like a smart guy in high school. And
Yeah.
so that kind of doesn't surprise me that you're into data analysis and different things like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good potential there. And um, so I had asked you to send me some questions, and so I might jump over to some of those, and let's
Okay.
see if we can uh, talk about some of those questions that you asked. So let's see. The first one, you have a hard time networking. What are some
Yeah.
tips on how to better network. So first of all, before I answer that, how do you network currently? What are some things that you are doing? Because I don't want to like say, oh, go do this, and you're like, oh, I already do that.
Yeah. So currently I use LinkedIn. I've got a lot of coworkers and friends from previous jobs that I don't always keep up with. And so um, I want to approach them in a way that seems less blunt, because I can be pretty blunt sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to approach it more kind of a let's collaborate and help each other type of deal, rather than just me being like, hey, I'm out of a job, help me find a job type of deal. I I, I want to network without being offensive and rude, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah. So yeah, and that leads to your second question. So I'll put that in there, and then maybe give you some talking points there.
yeah,
With your second question was, what about contacting people I haven't talked to for a long time? So I think that just reaching out of the blue can feel super uncomfortable, saying, oh, hey, we haven't talked for 20 years. Can you help me
yeah,
find a job? Yeah.
yeah,
Um, so I would say, first of all, most people are going to be kind, and they're going to be understanding. They're going to be totally willing to help. And I think most people have that feeling of, yes, I want to help somebody. I appreciate you reaching out. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be, yes, let me help you, but then they forget about it. I don't know if you've ever heard of the concept of mental real estate. Uh, Essentially, that's you want to get into somebody's mind. You want to be front of mind on people who can help you. And so
mhm,
um, I think it's perfectly okay to reach out. Just have that confidence in yourself. Um, that's one thing I try to instill in people, is that confidence that I matter just as much as anybody else. There's a book that I love, and the definition of humility is seeing everyone as equal and recognizing your own value.
yeah,
And sometimes we tend to downplay our own value. And so when we reach out to somebody, we're like, well, I'm gonna bug them. They don't care about, they're busy or something like that. And I'm not as that important.
yeah. I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah,
be a burden. I don't want to take from their busy schedule.
yeah,
But most people care. And I would say just keep that in mind. Yeah, you might want to try to find a good way to wordsmith a message that says, hey, I know we haven't talked for a long time. Um, how are you doing? Always open it up with something. When you're networking, you always try to give before receiving. Um, if you walk up to somebody at a networking event and just say, hey, my name is Justin and I'm looking for a job. How can you help me? They're
yeah,
going to be like, well, who are you and why are you asking me that?
yeah,
But if you walk up to them and ask about them and find out what they are doing, and if you provide a connection to them or something like that, that makes it so much easier for them to say, oh, so what are you doing? What's your goals? And, well, I'm looking for work. This is what I'm looking for. That's when they're going to be a lot more willing to reach out. So reaching out cold to somebody you haven't talked to for a long time, just make it cordial as you can.
yeah,
But again, know that most people are happy to help.
yeah. Makes sense.
So as far as networking otherwise goes, I love LinkedIn. I think it's one of the most powerful ways to connect with businesses and connect with people.
Mhm.
If there's a company that you're interested in, I always will recommend you just find the person that you think would be the most likely to be a hiring manager or a good connection within the company. Send them a personal request. Don't necessarily ask for the job, just don't necessarily say, oh, I'm looking for work and I want to work for your company. You could say, I am just interested in knowing what your company does, what your culture's like. I'd like to connect and have a conversation.
Yeah,
So you do get LinkedIn changed it recently, which is really frustrating to me, where you only get 5 personal connection requests every month.
yeah,
So use those wisely. But I think it's really important to, first of all, connect with somebody. If you have a goal, find a way to get involved with that company. I like to be able to stick I tell people about sticking your leg in the door, not just
Yeah.
your foot. How can you get involved with a company in a way that no other candidate possibly could? The best way to get a job is to already work for the company and get promoted into a position.
Yeah.
The second best way to do that is to know somebody and just be so involved in what that company's doing, be connected with a lot of people, make friends with them, so that when opportunities do arise, you are a referral.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. So um, yeah, so that's what I would say. And then the next thing is there's a lot of in-person opportunities. I noticed that you're connected to Eden Johnson
Uh-huh.
on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I know that she does a lot of networking groups and a lot of different things like that. So as much as possible, maybe find things like that where you can connect with people and do in-person opportunities. You mentioned you were an introvert, and that's not always the most exciting thing to introverts.
It's definitely
But
not, no.
no, but I think it's important to get out there and find those connections. There's a group on Facebook called Connect Utah, which I think is a really good. Uh, I don't see a lot of people posting about, hey, I need a database administrator, but occasionally people will post stuff that you could possibly chime in and say, oh, this is a good tool or something like that. So finding different groups on Facebook. There's some that are not as good as others. And so I would just say, just be choosy about some of those. I don't know how active you are on Facebook or not, but there are some good groups out there.
I haven't been on Facebook forever. It's
Okay.
hit
And
and
that's
miss for
totally
me,
okay
so
too. So,
yeah.
but LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn still has groups, but the groups aren't nearly as good as they used to be.
Yeah.
That used to be a really good way to connect with people and stuff like that. So I would just, as you're finding, as you're looking at companies and you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, that company would be awesome. I see that," just find a way to connect with them. If you see, like, I'm connected with somebody at that company, I'm happy to send a connection request, even if I don't remember why I'm connected with them.
Okay.
I'm always happy to reach out to people like that. Use your network on LinkedIn to get introductions as much as possible. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably my best advice as far as that goes.
Cool.
So your next question, if I could come up with 3 lesser known impactful things to do for job search, what would they be? Some of those I've covered.
Yeah.
Just making sure that you are valuable already to the company. Know your own value, know what you can bring to the company. But again, I think I've shared this on the other videos that I've recorded. So I'll try to spin it just a little bit differently so that people don't hear the same stories. But um, so I'm a serial entrepreneur and I love to uh, do things in an entrepreneurial way. And
Yeah.
so I'm really good at finding ways to get involved in a company and getting involved with people in that company. And so if you have a training, something that you could train on for a management team or something like that, build some kind of a training and go in and present that to the company. Show
Mhm.
people what you know.
Yeah.
Um, hold a webinar and invite people in that company to come and learn about it. So I think that's a good way to just show your value. The other thing, as far as and it's probably more applicable to more entry level positions. So if you're looking for a remote job or something like that, there are a lot of scams out there. We always tell people go directly to the company website.
Yeah.
and apply directly through the company website. Even if you find the job on Indeed or some other job board, you apply directly on the website. But also, again, network. I think that the tips that I gave you on networking, those are probably some of the most valuable job search tools. Is how can you create value even before you're an employee of a company? So just start thinking of ways that you could take your knowledge and your skills to a company and add value even before you apply.
Yeah.
It's important to follow the procedures to applying for a job, but I think it is more important if you have a contact within that company that can give you a raving review and say, yeah, he's already done this, this, and this for our company. I think we need to give him a good quality look and see if he fits in our company and culture. I don't know if that's 2 or 3.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yes. And then the last question you had, I find it difficult to come up with more impactful, quantifiable statements on my resume. Can I share some tips with that? I think when you look at your resume, just ask yourself, is there a measurable metric that shows this is, because most people, when they do their resume, they basically put their job description.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you already know the concept that you need to include accomplishments.
Yeah.
And so make sure that, so first of all, just ask yourself, is there something that is measurable with this particular bullet point?
Yeah.
And if there is, put it in there. It doesn't have to be world changing. It can be how much data you managed.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and for me, so I look at the data point and I
Mhm.
say, so for instance, my most recent job, I did what was called a stitch, and it would take legacy data and incorporate it with the current data. And usually a lot of the data that we got from legacy stuff were flat files, and we tried to get kind of a uniform type,
Mhm.
but a lot of them just weren't. And so we had to do a lot of data manipulation and massaging and stuff like that. And so I took the time to create different statements that would impact pulling that data in. And it
Mhm.
reduced the time by quite a bit. But because of the broad array of things, some would take 3 or 4 days, some would take half a day, some would
Mhm.
take, and it was such a broad array that I can't be like, I increased time by 80% or
Mhm.
anything like that. It's hard to quantify some of that kind of stuff, right?
And sometimes it is hard to put a number to it or a percentage, and that's totally okay. What I if And the other thing that I would say is you don't always have to have like the exact percentage or number or something like that, but just I guess sometimes it can be hard to define this was the actual impact. This is, this saved us this many days or whatever.
Yeah.
But on average, if you took an average of what did this do to my workload. If normally this process took 3 days, some days going through this process and taking these flat files and putting them with the current data or whatever, sometimes that might have taken you a week. But with the new process, sometimes it's maybe a day because it's not as much data or something like that. But if you just kind of, it's okay to say, come up with your best guess,
Yeah.
because
Kind of like
nobody's gonna
at least
call your
50% type of kind
yeah
of give
no
just a base range or something.
yeah nobody's gonna
Okay.
call your employer and say, okay, he
Yeah.
said that he did this and saved 50%. That they're gonna be like, well, I don't know. Most of the time they might say, oh yeah, I remember him doing that, but
Yeah.
I don't have any information as far as the percentage or anything. So, and most employers aren't necessarily allowed say anything more than you worked here, you are rehirable, and this was when you worked here.
Yeah.
Legally, that's if they call your employer, that's all they're really allowed to say. So, so yeah, just make your best guess when it comes to like percentages or days or time or the impact, dollar impact. Sometimes you might have an actual, this database saved the company $5 million or whatever. So
Yeah.
sometimes you might have specific data like that. Definitely use that. But the other thing that I would say is, what did you do for the company that if somebody else was there, it wouldn't have happened? That's the
Yeah.
kind of impacts that you want to put on your resume is, if I weren't there, this would never have happened. Those are good impacts that companies need to hear or need to see on a resume to be able to say, wow, that's really cool. I think we need that.
Yeah.
So, the resume will get you that interview, and that's the goal of a good resume. And so being able to highlight your impact, your contribution to a company, that makes it easier for the company to be able to say, yeah, I think we want to talk to this person because I want to learn more about how he did this. So hopefully that
Yeah.
made sense and helped with that a little bit. So
Yeah.
what other questions do you have? Do you have any other questions? Is there something that I or the network that might be watching this could help you with?
Help me get a job.
There we go.
No, we'll get one. It's been an interesting journey. I've
Yeah.
learned a lot,
So if you could give one last, I guess I wouldn't say plea, but what would you want employers to know? You gave your commercial at the beginning, but
Yeah.
what would you want your employer, a potential employer, to know about you that uh, that you could do for them?
I'm the type of person that is unassuming, but once you pull me in and can trust me, I'll get the job done. Give me whatever you want me to do, and I'll have an impact. And a lot of times it's not a huge impact. Sometimes it's just me patting someone on the back and cheering them on,
Mhm,
But I like all those little things. All those little things just add up so much, and where you can't really put that kind of stuff on a resume, um,
mhm.
I feel like it's a greater impact than people will even realize sometimes.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. I love just that little, you know, oh, that was awesome, great job, or whatever,
Mhm.
the smile and wave at someone, hey, how's it going, or just whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. And like I mentioned earlier, for anybody listening, I've known Justin, I could probably say now, for about 30 years or so.
Yeah, yeah,
And he's always been a nice, smart, uh, good person. And I don't think there was a person that probably was ever offended by him or anything like that. But he's also, I just remember him in high school as a good kid that did his work and seemed to be a good student and a smart person. So um, anybody out there that can give Justin an opportunity. All right. Well, Justin, thanks for your time today. It
yeah,
was it was fun chatting, and I don't know, maybe we'll chat a little more um, after the recording is done here. But
yeah. I appreciate your time, Trenton.
yeah, no
It's been
problem.
good.